Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and it is now the 1st of September. In fact, I'm looking at my calendar. I changed every calendar in my house yesterday evening. Sorry, I got this hair that's kind of hanging out. Good morning, Joanne. I was just saying it's the 1st of September and I'm looking at the one calendar I have in my bedroom and I have not shifted that. I've shifted everything to, good morning, Pat. I basically have shifted everything else in the house to September because yesterday I had to go through systematically and go through my calendar for like the next 3 months because I've got all these classes and things that I'm teaching. I have the school, which I talked about on the last live stream. And of course, and it's, and Joanne, it's going to be on, we're going to talk about this it's on Inside the Sacred Circle. Am I correct about that? Is that the one that because I know you have a couple of different podcasts. I think that's the one that we're going to talk about at school on Thursday, September 12th at 8 p.m. So, and Joanne does have regular, absolutely. Yeah, Joanne does have a regular podcast at that time. So definitely check her out and follow her as well because she has some great conversations with different people. Who are largely connected to the magical community, and also I think, we're talking about, I think mainly people from that particular context. It's interesting. There's an interesting mix of people who end up being on there. I wish I had time to actually sit there, and I have actually tried to have tuned into it when it's been on, but there's been other days when it's not been possible, so I have some catching up to do. But in any case, it's so we will be doing that on the 12th. Which podcast? I think it's called Inside the Sacred Circle, is what it's called, and it's done. Joanne, who's on here, Joanne Gajewski does it with, and Jim Sayers is the other. The two of them are the ones who are usually on this podcast, and they usually have a guest. So. But I will post a link to it actually to Pat, so that way if you want to hear it or watch it, I think it's also on YouTube. You can watch it there as well. So so we'll put that together. That's going to be, I guess that's next week already. I'm feeling like, oh, it's September. I've got plenty of time, and I'm like, no, it's actually September. My students go back on the 4th. For the university. I haven't seen too much activity in my my email last night took ages to load. It was really weird. And today, I've just been looking over. Today we're doing the intuitive development class. So people who are joining, and Pat, by the way, I got you back on that list. I'm trying to figure out why it's doing things the way it's doing it. But in any case, so you're definitely on the list, and you're going to be on the list for every week. So just so you know, because I had gotten some reason people who bought 10-week tickets, it was like it put them on for the first week and then not for the subsequent weeks. So we own a safe space for creator practitioners of all walks to talk about their practices, to remove stereotypes, and help people find credible resources. Okay, there you go. So perfect. Joanne's explanation of what the podcast is about, and what the mission is of the podcast, or what it's centered around. So so there you go. Definitely check that out. And I'm doing next Tuesday. I have to go to Mount Olive Public Library. I'm doing a talk on energy healing modalities with Jenny Denara-Som and also Melissa Presley, who is of a little touch of sunshine, which is her business. Plus, also she does How Aura You, No Drama or Witch Wars, etc. Yeah, that's always refreshing because I'm not going to actually repeat it. Will Moore posted something the other day that just I nearly spit across the room, but kind of on that subject. Will Moore, I think he's on Facebook. Will Will and Moar is how he's spelling his name right now. But he makes these memes that really kind of poke at that particular community, and some of them go over people's heads, I think, because you have to know the full context, but some of them even go over my head, but there's a few, but the one thing he posted the other day, anyway, he really laugh hard, but he used a word that I'm probably not going to use on the live stream, so, moving on from that, So yeah, there's quite a lot coming up this week, and then of course, like I said, there's going to be the launch of the school in October. I am trying to get all that coordinated. The GoFundMe right now, 2 people have donated, so I've got I'm going to be happy to get more of the word. It is recent. I've only put it up in the last couple of days. Oh, perfect, absolutely, check it out. Oh, okay, that's Pat responding to Joanne. So yeah, and I've got some. I can also do a radio one once a month on Blog Talk called Joyful Empowerment. That's right, and I've been on that one too. That was yes, I knew you had 2 at least going on. So yeah. So Joanne's busy. She's got a couple of podcasts going on. Enough trouble keeping up with one, but she's got 2. So that's cool. So all right. So where are we today? Where are we today? We are on like I said, September 1st, and astrologically, we have a few things coming up. We have, actually, that's the other thing I have coming up, an astrology class in Milford on the 14th of September. I'm going to be doing that for anybody in person, and it looks like we're setting up an in-person intuitive development there for October, trying to find weekends that work. I'm trying to keep September a little freer for myself, for this kind of work, because as of October, like, the teaching stuff's going to explode on multiple fronts. So I'm trying to, but I need to make sure I have space for my Rouhani clients and things, that I'm not pushing anybody out with all these other activities going on. But I do feel like this school is important and needs to be launched. And of course, I have a new podcast coming out Monday. You and I are getting hit with Uranus retro in Taurus. Yes, and it's interesting because till 2025. Well, I mean, yes. And the thing is, though, actually, yeah, that was one of the first things I was going to bring up, Joanne, was that, and I think it's especially hitting you, given where your birthday is, because you're right between Taurus and Gemini, and Uranus is going to move into Gemini in July of 2025. We're 3. Oh yeah, and okay, yeah. Everybody on here is going to be affected by Uranus and Taurus. That's right, because your birthday, I think, Pat, is like it's within 10 days after mine. So so it's all joyful. I think we're both Pat and I are both April, and I think you're May. Yeah, you're May, definitely. So yeah, you're on the 28th. Yeah, so yeah, so yeah, this is the Uranus and Taurus crowd. So yeah, so when it goes, but in July, it's actually going to go direct in Gemini. So people who are in early Gemini are going to probably get slammed right around that time. Although it's going to retrograde back into Taurus in November of 2025 until I think May of 2026. So it's going to be around for the next couple of years. I mean, I got slammed with Uranus and Taurus in 2019. That's when because I'm at the beginning of Taurus. I'm at the end of Aries. I'm at the beginning of Taurus. So that's when I got slammed. The other things we're going to get slammed with, though, yeah, you're surfer bird, that's funny. The other thing we're getting slammed with is Pluto's going retrograde back into Capricorn. It's been in Aquarius, and now we are moving back into Capricorn again I think it's actually through early November, which is just fabulous for the presidential elections. But and Chiron kicked my butt. Yeah, and there's still a lot of Aries energy. The nodes are still Aries Libra. I haven't looked up exactly. I have my ephemeris right here. And then trying to figure out the times on this, because this is done in what they call ephemeris time, and so the old ones were done in universal time, and so this one is a little bit problematic here, trying to figure out exactly. I don't have the proper calculators for all the times on everything, because it's based on, as I'm reading through trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, this is beyond me. I need like software to do it for me because I can't figure it out. But the other aspects that we have coming up, we've got this. Let me see. Last aspect. What's interesting. Okay, so we've got. Mars moving into on the 4th. Okay, but you can confirm. I can confirm. Oh my God. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Pat and I have had a lot of talk about her Chiron stuff. Okay, but Mars in Cancer is going to be another big one. So Okay, Mars in Cancer is going to be a, I feel like that's something I'm feeling the effects of already. So we've got this Pluto retrograde, we've got this Uranus retrograde, and Pluto and Uranus, of course, are both planets that are, like I said, they're the outer planets. I did a little live stream on the outer planets. So they tend to have more global impacts. They can have very personal impacts, but there is another shakeup that's going on. Now, I got an interesting message from Azrael this morning. Sometimes I don't do my messages until after this live stream, just because it's quite early in the morning. But he told me, sometimes he'll be like, no, there's something I want you to mention, so he'll do it before. Now, the exact wording in the angelic language, I'm not going to remember, but he said something to the effect of, how am I going to phrase it? That there have been, so I people who followed me have followed me about this kind of shakeup that happened at the last full moon. And by the way, the new moon is tomorrow too. That's the other shift. We're going to have a new moon coming in tomorrow, and it's actually, I didn't check to see where that new. I don't want to get this wrong because what the date is there. Let me just go look. Bear with me for a second here. Okay. New moon is astro data. It's interesting. It's telling me first quarter. All right, let's just see if I can find it over here. All right, let me just look. I know that it's tomorrow, so let me look at the moon. Okay. That's interesting. It's hard. It's not giving me the exact data for the new moon here, and it should. Oh, wait, hang on. That's interesting. I'm looking. Oh, you know why I'm not getting the data? Well, I'm like, this looks totally wrong because I'm in the wrong year. That's why I can't find it. All right, let's see. Right, so we have the new moon on, it's supposed to be, yes, okay, this is actually saying the 3rd, but I think it's the 2nd, and it's going to be, it is a Virgo new moon. So it's, so we're gonna, sorry, that took me far too long for me to get into that, but I was looking at 2025 instead of 2024, and I was like, this doesn't look right, so that's why. Okay, so we have a new moon coming, and so where does this leave us? We've got this. So we've got a lot of stuff that we're revisiting before 2025. There's this old business that has to be solved, and this is interesting that I have this cough coming up. I was about to talk about the Azrael message, and what he's basically has said is, and I apologize, I feel like I'm all of a sudden very distracted this morning. The Azrael message was that we were talking about the stuff that had happened, and he mentions 4 of the highest creatures fall, okay, and it's those creatures are so when we're talking the angelic realm, you're talking seraphim, you're talking that's the highest realm there. Plus, we're also talking about Metatron. And as I mentioned the other day, there was, I think it was, people who channel Metatron are already picking up on this idea of, we're being censored, there's this terrible thing going on. And so it's kind of interesting how it jives with what happened, where of course we're looking at it from a different angle. But basically what Azrael said is you're going to start hearing a lot of psychics and what he calls the receivers, a lot of people who are going to be getting information that's going to be like an earthquake. It's going to shake things up, where people are going to be saying, we're moving into a terrible time. There's going to be wars. Everything's going to be torn apart. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to be hearing a lot of that kind of rhetoric because that's going to be the information they're receiving. He's like, but they're receiving it from those people who have come close. Those not people, but those. He refers to them as creatures, those angels who have come closer to this realm. He said, and you need to not pay any attention to it. He said it's just them like running around with chickens with their head cut off, because they still. He says there are 4 who are still divided for whatever reason. Good morning, Suda. And so, yeah, so there's this idea that there could. So I think the net that we need to understand is that in the next, there's going to be people who follow certain mediums who channel certain angels or things like that. That there could be some messages that suggest that everything is falling apart. The whole world's going to end and it's going to be terrible. And Azrael's like, nah, don't listen to any of that, because it's coming from a source that has just literally, like, whatever the battle was, is just, they've just lost the battle. So they're, doing the sore loser thing, I guess. But so that is something that is, that came up this morning that he wanted me to mention on this live stream. So yeah, but so this week we've got all of these retro aspects. We're revisiting a lot of stuff. Of course, when we have Uranus in Taurus is something that causes a shakeup. Okay, so it can cause us to revisit things. And it's interesting because the astrology that's going on right now kind of reflects the messages that Azrael is giving to me. And so I asked him, I said, does the celestial movements, you would think it might affect the celestial realm, but you also might think that they're beyond it. He's like, no, it can affect this realm as well. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So as I had said, that one of the things that had come through was kind of like as above, so below. So what tends to happen in that macrocosm also tends to affect the things here. And everything seems to be affected by the energies and how they're moving, which is neither a good nor a bad thing. I mean, it's a matter of how you use any of it, okay? Including retrogrades. Even if we feel like we're getting slammed with stuff, the question is, okay, well, how do we respond to that? How do we respond to those challenges? Now, I was starting to talk about Mars and Cancer, and Mars was actually what I was going to talk a bit about today, because that happens. Now, this says the 4th. Again, because this is in ephemeris time, it might actually be more like the 3rd. And so I find that this past week, I've been feeling something. I've been feeling almost like an irritability, like almost like an explosive irritability about certain things. Not that I want to express like to people on live streams or to clients or anything like that, but I just find in my mind, and I'm like, wow, like this is like coming up. And then that's what came. I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I have a Cancer ascendant and my Mars is in the 12th house. So, but people who have a significant Cancer placement in their chart, just watch out, because I feel like because Mars is like, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire, so to speak. It can be any kind of emotional stuff for people with very strong Cancer placements. I think are going to be kind of, it's not going to be a whole lot of patience for it. Let's put it that way. And I just find there are things where, just in my head, just heard that in my medicine circle, seen and unseen realm synchronicity, I've been the same, moody. Yeah. So I just heard that you just heard that in my medicine circle. Got it. Okay. Yeah. And so, well, yeah, I think people are, because we're all seeing the same thing, it's kind of on the same level. But he did say you were going to get people with some gloomy doom and gloom messages, and he said, don't pay any attention to that. I guess that's the summary of pretty much what he said. Because he said, no, it's not that way, and it doesn't have to be that way. So, yeah, but I feel like that's going to be an aspect, and I have to see how long Mars is in Cancer for, but that is something I feel like a lot of us have to watch out for, because I know one of the things that's been discussed with me recently, not only among clients, but among friends, other people, is this idea that we're just kind of explosive right now. It's like it seems to me like things that annoy me, like start to extra annoy me, to the point where, like in my head, the rhetoric is probably far more inflammatory than it needs to be. Let's put it that way. So I especially I have this Catholic church property that's right next to my house, and the priest there, when he first became pastor, he was actually kind of okay. He had come down, he had cleaned up the property next to me, he had come down and talked to me, he had talked about the people who used to live on that property, who were a bit of a problem, but they're long gone now. And, he had even had a cookout for everybody in the thing. He was actually kind of nice. But then he kind of, and it seems to happen to a lot of people in this church, they get this kind of get off my lawn attitude. And he really ticked me off a couple of months ago, because he said something. He had repaved the roads in there and in the all the driveways in the church. And he did it on the same day that they basically had blocked off my road because they were repaving it. So anybody on our end of the street, not only could we not get out, we'd have to move our cars, but the only way to get to the street would be to cut through the church lot. But he's had them all paved. Now he's walking back and forth on this lot, and I had to cut through to go, my sister was picking me up on the other side. And he's like, could you not walk through here? I mean, it just was just done, you know. And of course, he's walking back and forth on it. And I'm not even going to tell you what I said to him. I turned around and went nuclear on him. And I've never seen that look on his face. His mouth hit the floor. I was like, do not talk to me like that. You do not talk to me. But it's that kind of nuclear energy that I'm feeling, especially as all the crap from his property is now, like, it's all overgrown and stuff. They're not maintaining it. So I was like, so I have to go out there and I have to clear a lot of it out. And I'm like, ooh, just wait. I am literally ready to bring like legal and zoning action against him for how he keeps this property now. Because he basically, I guess there were people walking through and dumping like Christmas trees and stuff back there, like not on his property really, but kind of over. So now he's decided he's just going to keep it. He's just turning it almost into a dump over there. I'm like, well, that's great because it adjoins my property. So you're basically saying you couldn't care less about what happens to my property. So I went, Pat, I think you can relate to this a little bit. You've got some interesting neighbors. But I was just like, okay, but I'm literally like this, like I was thinking today, I was just thinking, I just want to go, I literally want to start bringing legal action against this guy. I'm telling him the self-important attitude's over. Well, that's it too, because I think there was almost the feeling of like, this guy's a priest and he wears the collar, so you know, I have to treat him with a certain modicum of respect. And I'm like, dude, respect is earned. You know, the fact that you wear something does not earn you respect, not in my book. So so that was so yeah. So this is what I mean. I feel like there's a lot of this fiery energy coming up, and I'm like, okay, you know, just like I feel like I need to. Not that I want to suppress it, but I'm kind of like thinking this is interesting that this is what's kind of passing through right now. So I think for a lot of people, there's a need to kind of let this energy pass through, because I feel like it's just going to be, if you're already dealing with this could kind of, it could ramp up, maybe not in the external world, like there may not be anything going on that is going to, like things may not necessarily be getting any worse, okay? But nonetheless, in our minds, it's going to be one of those things that it's going to latch onto, and it's going to want to complain about it. So, and Mars energy tends to do that. Wherever you see Mars in wherever its placement is, it's going to amplify that. Now the positive side of Mars is that it can move you to action. Okay, it can make you say, okay, it's time to clean house, get this done, do it. Another note this year is called Anger according to the Hindu calendar. Oh, is it? That's really interesting. Okay, that I did not realize. Okay. Now is that the year? Is this the same January to December year, or is this also is this just? I think the years might be calculated. I feel like there's another point, which I'm not remembering right now, in which the years might be calculated. I hope, is this the? No, it's not. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think it's calculated on. Good morning, Amy. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, and it's the year of the dragon too. March, April. Right. As I was thinking, I felt like it was more like something spring. Okay. So yeah. So things are really kind of ramping up right now, and I know there's going to be a major aspect that ramps up in November. Unfortunately, right around the time of the elections. Although, again, the messages I've gotten around that are it's not going to be the firestorm that people think it's going to be. Maybe the media is going to make it more of a firestorm, but it's not going to be the firestorm that people think. So, but that's supposed to be a positive thing. So, but right now I just feel like everything's kind of getting inflamed, and wherever Mars appears in the sky, before it was in Gemini, so this can tend to make us, our thoughts, like us just kind of go crazy with our thoughts, overthinking, lots of anxiety, which some of people say, hey, yeah, that's me year round. But, there's this kind of overthinking and anxiety. Now that it's moving into Cancer, it's focusing a little bit more on emotional stuff, on the, on our feelings rather than just our thoughts. and so, yeah, so it can be something that moves us to action, and that would be the good thing. But it can also make us very impatient, make us very irritable. In extreme cases, Mars can lead to violence. Probably one of the more dangerous conjunctions was when it was more conjunct Algol, which was a few months ago, and we talked about that. Uranus, Algol, Mars. I mean, that was one where it was like, okay, if somebody was going to pull the trigger on something, that would be the time. But it can, so just kind of a word of warning here that things may get a little bit ramped up. And the way that I've always coached people to kind of work with that energy is to, it's like, you know, you're gonna have those feelings. The question is, like anything, there's the thoughts that you have, but the question is, what do you do with those thoughts? Okay, where do they fit in? Like, what do you you can have negative thoughts. I think Pat, you and I might have been having this conversation today. I choose, and kind of what it is even more like, okay, like when I talked about the Reiki principles, like we say, just for today, do not anger, just for today. I think it's more of a case of know that you're going to anger. Know that you're going to experience those things. The question is, though, what you actually do with it. But I wouldn't say. But one thing you don't want to do, in my opinion, here is, because a lot of times people will do this, and sometimes this actually makes it worse, is to say, I shouldn't feel this way, because then what you do is you take that energy and you turn it back on yourself, and you say, like, you know, you're a bad person for letting your temper flare up, or you're a bad person. No, you're not a bad person. This is just something that's working through you. Bullet the blue skies like no tomorrow. That's so funny. Just kind of like, that's just it. It's hard to acknowledge and move forward. And it's, but the thing is, it's not a space that you necessarily want to stay in. And it's not, and it's not necessarily a space that, obviously, this is not where we necessarily want to be. But I think from the other side of that is, we don't want to get into spiritual bypassing, which is where somebody just kind of says, no, I'm only going to be a beacon of positivity and light. And the thing is, the reality is we're not. We're not. I mean, we're both. And all of those things have a place. Sometimes that anger can actually move us to action, that corrective action. We can say, you know what, I'm tired of this and I'm not living with it anymore and I'm going to fix it. Like, it can move us to have conversations with people, maybe uncomfortable ones, that finally clear the air on something. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. If it is one of those things where you're angry and it's a situation that, I've been saying F it a lot. Yeah, it's, and that's just it. But there does need to be a place to put that. I think, as I was suggesting, that's why I suggest creative outlets to people. Like I said, writing, journaling, art, music, for people, for whatever people are able to do. Sometimes it can be as simple as just, venting to a friend, or people will call and vent to me, as part of whatever healing work we're doing. But it's better to, excuse me, I think I almost swallowed that the wrong way. Shouldn't drink coffee and talk at the same time. Okay, and so I don't know. So I just feel like we need to be kind of on the lookout for the fact that there is this energy that's going to be coming in, and as everybody here has been pointing out, a lot of anger, a lot of fire. Certainly, it's something that you, again, need to find where it fits. As I often talk about it, like it's a puzzle. Like, where does it fit? Where do we put this energy? Because it's not. I don't feel like it's just there to torment us. I feel like it's actually there to to show us certain things, maybe to show us places where we're wounded. If we're looking at retrogrades right now, it's showing us places maybe where corrections still need to be made. And again, I think the other thing too is patience, because Mars actually stokes a lot of impatience in us. And so we may do things, we may start on that road to healing the problem, or healing the long-standing wound. But then if things don't get better overnight, we may get very frustrated and say, oh, I'm never going to get over this. This is never going to be fixed. And the thing is, that isn't the case. It's just something that takes a lot of time. As I mentioned with spiritual journeys, when you're on a spiritual journey, the place you start at is always blissful. You always have this transformative moment that makes you go, wow, there's something beyond whatever discord I've had before, whatever unhappiness, whatever lack of peace, whatever. There is something. But once you find the path, you have to remember you're on the beginning of it, you're not the end of it. The path itself, in order to get to that place where you feel that centeredness and at peace, it's going to be something that goes around and around all the time, because it's like if we talk about samsara, it's like you're existing on a wheel. And a lot of times and part of the game is to be on the wheel, but when it gets to be too much, we have to pull back and go in the center. That's where you have to find that stillness, that still place where you're not, and that's what I talk about when I say you want to get to the place of observation. Now, yes, could there be somebody watching the watcher? I don't, really, it doesn't matter, as long as you're able to take a position of detachment where you can look at it and say, ooh, okay, I'm feeling this. But don't try to stop yourself from feeling it. Like, that's never the thing. Don't stop yourself from having the thought. Don't say, oh, I'm not allowed. I remember there was a book out years ago called You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. And I said, bull, you have to, this is part of who you are. You don't, there's some people who automatically see everything as bad, but I've known people like that too. Very curmudgeonly people who see everything as bad. It's almost amusing in a way. But, that sort of playing the observer is so liberating. Yes, and Joanne, let's see. Somebody vague booked a post about my pod and my guests. They didn't like them. I almost went off, but realized that's what they want. So I said, F it, and went about my day. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem too. Anything we're doing on social media, anything that's very public like that, like even something like this that I'm doing, can yield negative commentary. It can yield people who just want to start drama or start a fight. And yeah, with Mars and Cancer, you kind of got to watch out, because there could be a bit more of that going on. That's why I always, and that's why I often tell people, this was something I learned through Rouhani, was what they call it, the violet and platinum netting. I kind of mentally put it over doors, windows, computer, phone, websites, social media, to try to keep the negativity out and to keep the other in. Actually, if you're going to be in class tonight, Joanna, I'll talk a little bit more. I can refresh us on that, on how that's done. But I find that since I've been doing it, occasionally you'll get some, one strange thing that gets through, but for the most part, and now that I've said this, it'll happen, right? Meanwhile, my guest message was on spiritual unity. Yeah, well, it's interesting though, because the unity, it's kind of like what we experience. It's like they said, there's the insight of duality. Okay, the fact that we're here and that we recognize what's unique, what's separate, what's different. But then there's the insight that transcends duality, and that's the one that says, you're perceiving all that difference. Now let me tell you that that's all an illusion, and that it's not. There's really not that kind of separation. So, yeah, I could talk a little bit about that, the drama of that particular world, because I feel like, even though the words have not reached my ear, there's just some things through inference that I feel like there's some people who badmouth me in that community too, mainly because I didn't yield to the agenda of a particular individual in that, which I never do. Whenever I have people in that community who have tried to give me an agenda and say, you will do this, and you will do this way, and I'm like, ha, yeah, okay. And then I get badmouthed by people, because again, they'll try to control the narrative about you. If they can't control you, they try to control the narrative. And and I've always been of the opinion that, yeah, we're rebels. Yeah, to me, I'm just like, I've often said, the people who are my true friends will know who I am. The people who know the value of my work will know who I am, and the people who just want to do this kind of a thing, they're, and if they're going to come to me, yeah, like I said, I've had years ago, I had some people, come in and get in my face and tell me what a horrible, rotten person I was because of something that I did, and I was like, I didn't do that thing, but there was somebody who spread the rumor because they wanted me to. They were literally trying to take control of my life, my relationships, and everything was a covenant I belonged to. And I was just like, no, you're not going to do that. And I was annoyed. And I was kind of backing off from working with them. And then it was like, they went and told people that I said all these things that I didn't say. And he told me, he told me, I acknowledged outright this was going to be a lie, but that they were going to believe him and not me. And I was like, okay. But even then, even in my early 20s, I was just like, and that's why I don't work with covens, by the way, because I've always worked on my own, and I've always preferred to keep my practices to myself. And I don't necessarily even fully identify like as a witch at this point. I really don't use that term for myself, because it's not, I feel like that was something I practiced a long time ago, and now it's like, it's not that I don't have magical work that I do and stuff like that. So yeah, there's an element of that. But that's not how I would, like when you go in my bio, that's not how I identify myself. I don't tend to think of it that way. Okay, let's see what our reading's going to say today. Today I'm going to use the Within Spirit Tarot. I had it out and I'm using it for weekly readings for Libra through Pisces, which as always, it's Sunday and I'm behind on them. I have a call with somebody at 10 and then I've got class tonight, so that I've got to prepare for. So we'll figure all that out. So yes, I got so tired of you're awesome, but you're not initiated. You talk to so and so and do this. Yeah, I'm the goddess of groovy. Yeah, there you go. That's it. And yeah, exactly. Like what your lineages are. I'm like, all those lineages are not. I'm sorry. Very few of them are real, at least in America. I mean, you can start a new lineage, but it doesn't make you really any more qualified than, because these people, that was the stuff in the 80s. It was like, oh, we're the world's oldest religion. That's like, oh, no, you're not. Gerald Gardner invented this religion in the 50s. Which, again, as I said, as Jake Stratton Kent used to say, he would say, that's fine. I mean, you can reinvent and you can rework a modern, that's totally cool. But it's not, but to say that, oh, well, most people don't get initiated into those lineages, and most of the groups that exist today, I mean, it doesn't make you any more qualified to do anything. I mean, you can figure a lot out on your own. So, I mean, I've had certain initiations, but they can have a value, but it's not like, oh, well, you have no credentials if you don't do that. I mean, anyway, that's a different subject. Okay, so our center card for today is the Four of Wands. And the Four of Wands is a card of, this is a card of, okay, you see two people kind of standing under this banner. This is generally a very happy card. This is a card of stability. It's a card of marriage, often for some people. It can be a card of, of accomplishment, of having accomplished something. But you see these two people, there's two people standing together. You got this kind of 11-11-ish type thing. But the way I always view this card, and especially because I've been getting the rune Thurisaz a lot in my readings, is I view this as a gateway that you walk through, okay? So this card is about a gateway. And so I feel like we are standing at a gateway. And I do feel like these retrogrades, one of the things that they're doing are bringing us to a space where we are, we may be looking back. It's like a Seven of Pentacles type of moment, even though this is the Four of Wands. It's like we're looking back on what we've accomplished and maybe what we haven't finished yet. Okay, we're kind of looking at where we are. It is telling us to take a moment to acknowledge what we've achieved. Okay, and then it's a matter of, okay, what are we going to walk through the gate to the next thing? But right now we're kind of still at the gate. And the inner feeling, it's funny, I'm talking about Mars and Cancer. We have King of Cups. Now, King of Cups is actually about This is a card to me that has to do in this case with control of the emotions, okay? With our feelings, with the expression of our emotions and also the control of them. And so this is what is unconscious. This is what we're not seeing right now. So there are a lot of emotions that are lying under the surface here. And what we are aware of is judgment, okay? So judgment could be that we are, again, revisiting past stuff, making decisions, waking up to things. Now that's the positive side of Mars. And that is the sense of, okay, this is what's going on. This is how we are going to, this is where we are going to take our conscious mind and work with what's going on unconsciously to try to make sense of this or to work through it. And again, it doesn't mean that it's going to be solved for all time necessarily, especially certain types of things as humans, we just tend to recur. But having that moment of awareness, of external awareness, and judgment also implies, again, just like with the 4-what, that you're at the end of something. You're heading towards that point of accomplishment here. And we're moving towards this new space. And in fact, speaking of new space, we have the Ace of Swords as our next card. Okay, Ace of Swords is new thought, new ways of thinking, new ideas coming in. And part of what we need to do is, as we negotiate old emotions and old things that are going on here, is that we are, it's going to be moving us into a new space. And so all of the turmoil that we're going through, and maybe even this year, and we always think of it like, okay, I want to go through turmoil for like 2 days tops, and then let's get out of it. Well, that's never how it works, right? These cycles last for a very long time, especially when you're talking about the outer planets. You know, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. It's, you know, and Chiron. You're talking about influences that are very they don't shift quickly. Saturn doesn't shift quickly. You know, they don't. It kind of tends to move very, very slowly, and that drives us bonkers because we want to. We really want to get past certain things. But this is indicating new thought, new ways of doing things. So in other words, all of this turmoil right now is going to lead us to a place of doing something new. And ultimately, we have the Queen of Pentacles, okay? Love this deck. Yes, this was, in fact, Ellen, my friend Ellen, who's Spiral Priestess on here, I think she knows the guy who made this deck, Stephen Bright. I think she's friendly with him. She's mentioned him before, because I guess she made her own deck. It was called Voices of the Dark Mothers, and he had apparently done some kind of a thing on it. So yeah, I do love this deck too. This was I think it was a Christmas gift for me this past year. But you have Queen of Pentacles as the outcome. So Queen of Pentacles is more about establishing security, but it's new ideas about security. With the Ace of Swords at the root here, this means that we have to, that our ideas about what it means to be secure, or about what it means to even have abundance, okay? Because Queen of Pentacles is associated a lot with abundance. Queen of Pentacles is also associated with the body. And a lot of times this comes up when we are being called to pay attention to our physical health as well as our mental, psychological. This may be kind of telling us, you know, trying to get ourselves back into that earth connection, back into the body, back into what makes us feel solid in ourselves. Okay, that thing about us that we feel secure, that we come home to, that place in yourself that you come home to. I mean, no matter where people go, really your sense of being at home is here. Some people, like I said, if you're Taurians, like a lot of us on here today, we may be people who like to stay in one place. We're like, no, we don't want to move around a lot. Or we may, but home really, that may be also one of the lessons of Uranus and Taurus, is that home is where you are, basically. Home is not always, and to a certain degree, especially with a lot of family stuff that's been coming up for people, home is not necessarily something you can go back to. We talk about going back, you know, the idea of like the people I know who say, oh, I'm going to go, they grew up in a particular town and have fond memories of it, and then they say, oh, I'm going to go back for a visit. But when they go back, it's not the same. It's not the same people. It's not the same thing. If we think about Homer's Odyssey and Odysseus, when he comes home, he's not the same person. It's not like it's not the same situation. Things have changed. He's changed. His wife has changed. You know, the world has changed. As things change, it's like, okay, trying to find that stability that's more in yourself and is less about place, less about the stuff around you. Particularly, it's a kind of this idea of being where you are. Now, I'm going to say this because this is coming into my mind. And when I see a Four of Wands and I see an Ace of Swords, I feel like there's roughly a period of 1 month. Done that a few times, can attest. Yeah, and exactly. Well, it's interesting. Like when I travel abroad, usually the first time I'm staying in a place, at least the first few days, is very, very awkward, even if it's a place I've wanted to go. But then I have to remind myself, well, that's just because you're very Taurian and you're getting used to a new place. So I just kind of sit with it and say, okay, well, I'm gonna feel this way because this is new. I still don't have a new routine. I'm not into this space. And then eventually I'm into the routine and I'm into the space. Now, if you're traveling a lot and frequently, then I think it's more important ever that we kind of find that center grounding point, because that's the point from which, wherever we go, we're not so wedded to outside routines. And that, again, I think that's also part of these retrograde lessons. Pluto and Capricorn, too, because Capricorn Capricorn and Taurus are two solid earth signs, and you have these two planets that are shaking everything up. We need to be in this, it's teaching us about what the importance, what the meaning is of Earth, where being in the space of Earth, while Earth can be a very rich place of abundance where things can grow, where we can learn patience, where we can plod along, where we can do the work that we want to do, and in a practical and organized kind of manner, we can also get trapped in narratives of control, of trying to control the space, of trying to control what we're doing. So, so that's what I think. That's what I think the message is here. Let me just pull an essential oil card, and we are at 746, so I'll probably end this soon. So let's see what our last card would be. Oh, I'm gonna jump through. Oh, and I got this one, something else. Roman chamomile. I think we've had this one again recently. It's popped out again. And the key word is destiny. The trigger statement is, I am lost. The true statement is, I do what I love. There's a path waiting just for you. Open your heart and mind so you can use it on your journey of fulfillment. Okay, so that really kind of jives with this reading, because the path is that Four of Wands. There's the path. Thank you. This was another great way to start my day. Oh, you're welcome. So remember that there's a new path waiting. We may be revisiting and closing up things, but there's no need to be attached. Home is going to be wherever the next place is that you are. It's not necessarily about staying in one locale, physically or even mentally. I mean, we have certain routines. We don't necessarily have to stick to those. Yeah, boom, chakalaka. So anyway, I do hope this was helpful. I know I was a little bit diffuse today, trying to read through this. And I do want to say to the person who I think is watching this live stream, I sent him a message like 5 days ago, and I still have not heard, and I don't think it has anything to do with anything I've said on this live stream, but I do think that in all the messages that he gets, that it's gotten lost. It's very unusual. Well, good. I'm glad. And I'm going to see you tonight, and I'm going to see you tonight. I know I'm going to see... Oh, you're welcome. And Suda, I think we're not going to see you tonight, but I know Pat will be on. Yes, see you later. Fantastic. So, But anyway, I just want to say to him, you haven't responded to my message yet, and I think it's just because it's gotten lost in the shuffle. But anyway, everybody have a great Sunday, and I'll see some of you tonight. And take care, and I will also be live. Well, yes, I will be live streaming tomorrow morning. I will not be doing the Cattonia one, but I'll be doing this one. So great. So awesome. Take care. See you guys later.